Hello and welcome to FP Talks. I'm Farooq Betafi. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, kindly do so. Also, click the bell icon so that whatever content I create reaches you in time. That is not all. You must see on your screen a QR code and also a list of my socials and my website. I will highly encourage you to kindly subscribe to them as well. The QR code takes you to my WhatsApp channel, and there you can stay updated on my other content as well. Apart from this channel, whatever I write for papers that appears there, my off the cuff opinion also reaches you there. So today's topic is on American elections, and I owe you an apology. I wanted to do it ages ago, but there was so much going on in the American politics. You saw that one candidate actually left the ticket, and then you had to actually wait for a VP candidate. Now we have the picture which is clear. So I'm going to talk about that, and particularly about the candidature of Kamala Harris and her running mate. It is very important that VP Harris should be seen as she is, and I think that she is a great candidate. Let me actually tell you also what prompted this video to be made, because I saw certain propaganda campaigns and certain actually a series of unfortunate events that compelled me to actually make this video. For example, you must remember the first debate that was between Donald Trump and President Biden, and the role that CNN actually played in that wasn't great. I'm not a fan, right? But then the second debate happens, and ABC did a tremendous job. It was between VP Harris and Donald Trump. I think that they did a great job of fact checking the candidates, and that continued as long as the debate went. But after that, people were saying that perhaps Kamala Harris actually lacks, policy insight or details. Then we saw her Pittsburgh speech, which was great, and after that, we saw Stephanie Rule's interview with her, and that actually became a kind. I felt bad the way the anchor was actually conducting it. It actually reminded me what was happening in 2016, because there are many Donald Trump embeds in the Western media, and they work like Manchurian candidates, and they all of a sudden come to life when the right moment arrives. So I was a bit worried that that might be something that is happening, but that is not all. There is another campaign that is going on, especially in India, in Pakistan and other South Asian countries also, that deserves your attention. For example, there's this guy, this anchor, a mega anchor in India called Arnab Goswami. He produced certain segments in which he is actually claiming that there is an American conspiracy to break India, or bring India down, and that conspiracy is led by the deep state, and then he associated the deep state with Kamala Harris. That was unfortunate, I think. When one of your own is running for the elections, I think that the kind of argument that I'm going to give you is going to should have come from an Indian anchor, not somebody who doesn't have any skin in the game. But I'm doing it because it is my moral obligation. I think that those who think that somehow Kamala Harris is bad for South Asia, and in Pakistan, of course, whenever people talk, somebody would actually say she's an Indian. That means that she shouldn't be the head of America and whatnot. I think that we saw a splendid candidate, although he came in very late, a splendid prime minister who ruled UK, who was of Indian origin. unfortunately, he had to own all the stuff that went on before him. But I think that he actually worked very well, and I'm talking about Rishi Sunak. So this idea also that because she comes from a Tamil Caribbean, she has a Tamil Caribbean background, she should automatically be considered your enemy is stupid, right? I think that what everybody is missing right now is so the term South Asia. When you look at South Asians, we look the same, we sound the same, regardless of our garb, regardless of our faith. So, if they are racists who are going to actually target you, they are going to target all South Asians. So, it is very important to remember what kind of forces you're enabling if you want to score a point against the US President as a candidate. I don't think that there's any conspiracy to actually divide India or to bring it down. For that matter, Adani and Modi are not India. India is much bigger. India is such a beautiful country, and I think that anybody who has known my work knows that I've never spoken anything that is meant to harm India, right? Similarly, nothing against nothing to harm Pakistan or Bangladesh or Sri Lanka, Afghanistan for that matter also. I have a value system, and I'm going to elaborate that in this program. So, this whole idea and compare it to Donald Trump's, of or his coalition, so to speak. I am not one of those who has, pitchforks, or for that matter, any kind of knives out for Donald Trump. I think that he offers a lot of value. That's why you see millions and millions of Americans supporting him. But the problem, and by the way, in many cases, I trust his judgment and I respect his actual blue collar voters, supporters as well. They are beautiful people. I'm never going to tell you that they are subhuman or they're bad or they're mental or something like that. Of course, every group, including Democrats, has this small group of weirdos that usually dominates the media narrative because they are there and because media uses this caricature of a voter. Although all Western media says that they are pro-democracy, but their role in promoting the negative image of democracies has been very, very serious, and one should look into that. But given that Indians are Indian diaspora, South Asian diaspora, including Sri Lankans and Pakistanis, they are now very important and they have very great influence. It will be sad commentary on the state of affairs if any voter goes and votes for Donald Trump, not Kamala Harris. Donald Trump's supporters, particularly the policy supporters, the group of weirdos that surround him, actually are the people who are actually, either they are representing certain interests, and we are going to look into that as well, or for that matter, they have actually moved away from their promises in 2016, and they have actually started focusing on racial identity more. For example, if you go and look up the video logs or vlogs of this guy who actually spearheaded Project 2025. He is always talking about white victimhood and all, and I have nothing against whites either. Remember, I believe that racism of any kind is bad. If it targets any community, you cannot say that this one has privilege and we shouldn't actually, you know, to speak for their rights. This is what you are going to find unique on this channel. But this whole idea that Hindus are going to be targeted if Kamala Harris is, becoming the U.S. president, or for that matter, Donald Trump is good because he is, at least in theory, subscribing to certain elements of Islamophobia. Those days are gone, and these are bad reasons why you are going to vote for somebody like Donald Trump, right? Of course, there are many other reasons that people could argue. For example, white working class men have felt compelled that nobody else was actually giving the kind of platform that was needed, and finally Donald Trump came along, and he spoke. At least he gave words to their anxiety. So I understand that bit. And I respect, everybody's hurt, everybody's pain, and I see that. But if even one South Asian vote goes to Donald Trump and it doesn't go to, Kamala Harris, and that is because of some kind of, perverted or subverted identity politics, that will be sad. And I'm telling you, I think very highly of Kamala Harris. I think that she is a smart woman. She offers so much to people, and at least she is partially South Asian. So any South Asian girl, my daughters included, should be chuffed that somebody like them is actually holds the strongest office in the world. And this, I speak of the people surrounding Donald Trump, especially the people who keep on spewing some kind of racial hate. It is important to remember that usually whatever said in public domain, it doesn't go away. It actually takes 12 years to ferment, and then it shows up in politics as a realistic issue, a serious issue. Some evangelists, I was looking at one video, a evangelist pastor who is very popular. He was actually lashing out against Indians, and then for good measure, because he thought that Muslims are also equally creepy. So he actually lashed out against Hindus, Muslims, Hindus of India, and Muslims of Pakistan, or people of both these countries. And that was hurtful. This will, if you enable this kind of environment, it is going to hurt you. Perhaps not today, but remember that your diaspora is there, and they are going to suffer in the end, in the longer run. Wherever a crime happens, after 9/11, the first angry attack that killed a South Asian, killed a Sikh American, Sikh, as you would call it, Sikh American, not a Muslim. But you get, we all look the same to them, and that's why this is something that might happen. And then, of course, when you talk about policies, there are so many other things. I mean, who doesn't have daughters, right? If you have children, you have daughters also. I have two daughters, and I know the kind of, whatever happened to Roe v. Wade, nobody, even not even actual conservatives, would want that militias are roaming up around, checking on your your daughters, and whether they are pregnant or not. Right? This is sad state of affairs. Perhaps Donald Trump did not want it, but that actually takes me to his platform and his shadow platform. His platform is whatever we have seen when he was in policy, he was making policy. But then, at that time, although he has hardly anything to do with Federalist society, he ended up actually vetting and approving its list of recommended justices. And in the end, he got three into the system, right? Three justices. And because of that, we saw what happened to Rome. And that actually shows you the whole these extreme groups have on a candidate like Donald Trump. And the second, the shadow platform that I was talking about is what you call Project 2025. So if you go through that, and remember that when you had Republican National Convention, in Democratic Convention, usually you have hopey changey stuff, you have love, aspirational stuff, right? In Republican National Conference, what you had was, sorry, not conference, convention. What you had was mass deportation signs, right? With that kind of state of affairs, remember that in the end, the diaspora, the South Asian Americans might suffer, and that is not an acceptable cause. So why not actually side with somebody who looks great, who sounds great, whose heart is in the same place, in the right place, but she also represents this cluster of people who want more liberties for you, unless of course you think that just becoming a Christian evangelist. I have nothing against Christians either. I love them. But Christian evangelist occasionally can be extreme, right? So unless you believe that freedom of faith only means that they are allowed to actually spread their message and nobody else should exist, and if you think that you know, freedom only means, uttering N word on screen, or for that matter, keeping guns, then you're severely mistaken. Right? So I suggest to everybody that just find a copy of Project 2025 and start reading it. When you go through it, you will realize what kind of horrible things it recommends. And even if an iota of that is implemented during Donald Trump's time, then sadly, I'm telling you, America is going to become one of the third world countries. That shouldn't be the case. America is a country that has been shining beacon of democracy. No matter how you see it, you might have your own opinions, but America has been a great inspiration. So it is important that it continues to be the way it is, right? And it spreads a message. Although there are debates about how much interventionism is important, should they go for it or not. But my point is, America and American values are best defended at this scenario, in this scenario, by the Harris Walls ticket, and that should be appreciated. Um, I want to actually let us now talk about Muslims, because we have seen two horrible things that are happening, right? I spoke about this Indian far right extremist propaganda that might be because Modi or Adani are under pressure, and their supporters might also be feeling the heat, not because of Kamala Harris or anything else, but because their own people have actually woken up and have started questioning things. And a lot of bad things are happening that should have been stopped. But that is more or less the propaganda arm of the ruling elite in India. That might have actually played a role in 2016 also, because they have such an ingress in the American media also. Remember, businesses are businesses. You can go and buy stakes in them, and then you can start asserting. Indians were there even before that, but what happened during Modi's time was that these guys actually started asserting and blackmailing. And not everyone is made of steel. Not everyone is made of Teflon. So people actually succumb to the pressure, And we have actually discussed those protections in the past. But now, about Muslims, I don't know what people are thinking when they think that anybody on other than Kamala Harris and Walls uh, in the current situation can do anything better than the Harris administration on Gaza, especially because so much pain is there. There are so many people who have been killed. So naturally, people want to be seen and they want their anger out. But that actually also reminds you of what went on in 2016, and there was a whisper, a similar kind of attempt in 2020 also. Let me remind you, in 2016, what happened was that Democrats were going through, especially because they were the incumbents, they were going through this, polarization, which was quite evident. On one side was Bernie Sanders, on the other side was Hillary Clinton. And because Hillary Clinton, when she was running for president before, and she was running against Biden, not Biden, but Obama. At that time, she had created a lot of generated negativity, and those people and many on the left actually immediately went to Bernie Sanders. And because there were questions on DNC's performance and how tickets were handed out, that issue actually brought Democrats down. And I remember RT, the Russian TV, visiting the office in DC and seeing what they were doing. And particularly whenever they would actually show pictures of various candidates, they would present, and I'm talking about pictorially, they would actually show you the caricature of Hillary Clinton, kind of the worst possible mugshot that is there. Other candidates would be similar, but then you would see Bernie Sanders, whose picture was okay, not changed, and Donald Trump. So in the end, they kept on. There was this impulse that was building that Bernie Sanders versus Trump would have been the actual match, and somehow Hillary actually came in and she took away the prize that was possibly of Bernie Sanders. I don't think that would have been possible because a lot of Democrats would have voted for Bernie Sanders, but a lot of undecided wouldn't have. So it was something that was to happen. But media also played a horrible role, MSNBC included. Remember, at that time, this loathing for Hillary Clinton was so obvious on MSNBC and the segments that you were astonished. Um, Now, what is happening in this case? And I've been saying this for quite some time that Gaza or crisis is one of the things that can potentially, hurt the Democratic ticket. It did hurt. I think that Netanyahu also has huge influence over Western media, and I would think that an organization like CNN, which doesn't seem to have that kind of popularity with the masses, but which actually is also resource poor, they have to, unlike MSNBC or Fox, so they have to depend on a lot of investors, and there are very committed investors which are either pro Modi or pro Netanyahu. So that first debate and the way I call it entrapment, the way President Biden was actually um, shown as somebody who is not capable of basic communication or body movement, that was a kind of entrapment. But that day is gone. Now, what they are trying to do is, and they initially tried to use Bobby Kennedy to undermine or undercut, President Biden. And eventually, what happened was because he detached himself from the ticket, Bobby Kennedy, with his extreme, platform, went and endorsed Donald Trump. After that, we have seen something which has been there, but there is a replay of it. The anger among certain liberals, um, uh, which is pro-Palestine anger and pain, that is being exploited, and there are many ways to do it. One example is because Kamala Harris's husband is Jewish, there are propaganda leaflets which were distributed, right, in certain states. But that is not all. Then they keep on saying that whatever is happening because Biden Harris administration is supporting the whole thing and whatnot. You know the kind of hard work that has gone in to actually stop Netanyahu from, yeah, doing certain things even worse than this, right? Netanyahu is also embattled. He's facing prosecution in many cases. He tried to actually create a law which tied the hands of Supreme Court of Israel, but Supreme Court actually threw it out as well. And then he's not very popular either. He has actually aligned with extreme groups to stay in power. So, well, because of October 7th, the most possible thing was that he would have lost power. Since then, I've been saying that instead of actually saying that he is going to go after, he is going to rescue the hostages, he initially started actually quoting Bible, and he used the term Amalek, the kind of language that is used for Amalek in the Testaments. So he used that you spare not the animals or plants either, and you kill everybody. And then he actually declared war on Hamas because Hamas is an entity. You can always say that it still exists and it is elsewhere. So you can continue for quite some time, and as long as you are waging that war, you stay in power, right? So, for a Democrat president, remember um, Netanyahu undermined Obama administration earlier. So, for any Democrat to have any kind of hold on Netanyahu is very difficult. And then the entire system is structured in a way that you can't actually stop helping Israel. And then Israel, remember that on 9/11, um, it wasn't Jewish people who attacked America. Those people, like it or not, they were Muslims, right? So it becomes very difficult for a common American to convince a common American that it is Israelis who are wrong this time, who have never attacked America, who have never tried to harm them, right? And not Palestinians who were in the past associated with certain very violent extremist incidents in the history. Berlin Olympics is one example. But so this is how things are. But anybody who thinks that any other candidate is going to offer anything better is out of their mind. Donald Trump looked other way when he was prime minister, when he was president, when similar kind of atrocity was unfolding in Gaza and West Bank as well. In fact, he gave Donald Trump, sorry, Netanyahu clean check, right? And blank check actually. And then you have the likes of Nikki Haley, who actually went to Israel and signed uh, a piece of ammunition and said, finish them. So it again goes back to your humanity, right? If Muslims think that Jewish people, all of them were being killed, that's horrible. If Jews think that Palestinians are expendable and they are not people, they are some kind of infestation, that's wrong. So the problem lies with Netanyahu, clearly not with Democrats or American government. And then you see, look at, you know, son-in-law of Donald Trump. He goes and says that Gaza will make a great ocean front for a lot of businesses. So this is how they are looking at it. I think that if you're Muslim, also the closest and the clearest shot that you have got at restoring some kind of normalcy in Gaza, in Lebanon, elsewhere, is a democratic ticket. Again, Donald Trump says that Donald Trump says regarding Jewish people also, if you're Jewish and American, and if you're voting for Democrats, you're out of your mind, which is again false, because Netanyahu is not a great friend of American Jews either. And I think that if you think that Netanyahu is doing something right, and if you think that he is for the American Jewry, then you are out of your mind. You need to go and visit a doctor, because this contains a simmering of hate in Israel and also in America. In America, what Donald Trump has done is, go out and support the same evangelists who want Israel for some very different purpose. They want healthier, stronger, fatter Israel, but for the second coming of Jesus Christ. And after that, of course, he is going to destroy Israel. So these people are known anti-Semites also, because a lot of evangelists are not a lot. Some of these pastors are, and you know what I mean. I don't mean to belittle any community. All I am saying is that there are extreme elements that are being pretended by Netanyahu. It serves him to his two purposes. One, it ensures that Americans blindly keep on supporting Israel's stance, especially with Netanyahu on the top. And then it creates a lot of heat for American Jewry, because if they are facing anti-Semitism at home in America, they always have the second country that they can go to, and that is Israel. So more Americans or more Israelis or people who are electing to be Israelis means more settlements, more expansionism, and that's how you keep on continuing your apartheid slash colonial project. This is what Netanyahu is. So, and by the way, let me also remind you that Daily Stormer, that is the one of the leading sites of neo Nazis, also very openly supported not Donald Trump, the son of Netanyahu, Bibi Netanyahu's son, called Yaya Netanyahu, and they actually kept his banner, his picture on the banner, and said, "Our favorite Jew." So, if you're Jewish, you're out of your mind if you support either Netanyahu or, for that matter, Donald Trump. Because remember that there were these elements around him during his last time also, who were extreme, and they were extreme because they were being sponsored, or they were and I don't mean, son-in-law of Donald Trump. I mean people like Steve Miller and Steve Bannon, right? These people were being sponsored by so many groups which are extremists, and they were sponsored because they wanted an extreme agenda enveloping America, so that America keeps on putting out its own fires inside home, and cannot actually stop them from doing their worst. Actually, there was this moment during Donald Trump's time when we thought that two countries, one Modi's India and then Netanyahu's Israel, are going to spark or start a nuclear holocaust, or for that matter, a third world war. One was, what was going on between Israel and Iran. The other one was between India and Pakistan. So, with that kind of state of affairs, the, the clearest choice that you have got is Kamala Harris and, Governor Walz. That is not all. If you are still confused, I know that a lot of you actually believe in what I have to say. And if you, I wish I had, truth meter or whatever that contraption is called, or for that matter, sodium pentothal, and then I could take it and speak to you so that you knew that I mean every word of it, right? But even without that, again, I can tell you with confidence that when it comes to President Biden, and remember, I have no interest, I have no skin in the game, but I look at the long term implications of your choices, and I have to say this for President Biden, and this goes to the first families also, the people I'm mentioning, their wives also, or husbands for that matter. President Biden and Kamala Harris. For them, I will happily take a bullet, and you can test me, and I can walk in front of a moving train and whatnot. You can always test me on that because this is how important the world's transformation is. On one side, you have AI taking your job, and in that situation, anybody who is saying that cut bureaucracy and then cut regulation also means that automatically the power goes to those billionaires that are going to actually abolish your jobs in a heartbeat. Although they did a great job during pandemic, there were two kind of people, right? On one side were those small timers, but still millionaires or billionaires who wanted you to volunteer to get infected in COVID. So because they thought that survival of fittest, if you survive, if you die, if you die. And they gave birth to all these conspiracy theories. Most of them were hard right people, but this is how billionaires and millionaire club is now. And then there were actual big businesses, the very influential ones, and they stuck to job creation. So at least what they did was they bought themselves some time. Otherwise, the world is so panicked because of automation's possibility, climate change, and whatnot. I tell you that if they don't restrain their billionaire friends who are just trying to keep everything on the boil and they want to just be kingdoms unto themselves, if they don't restrain them and they mess up America, they mess up the democracies of Europe, elsewhere, Canada for that matter, I tell you it is very easy, and I kid you not. Again, I wish I had that. I'm forgetting the name of that machine, right? It will come to me in a second. But sodium pentothal, that truth meter or whatever, right? That you would have actually whatever I am communicating, you would have believed easily if you could see that there is clear, no lying going on, and I mean everything of it. It's very easy to change the world into a wall to wall communism, not socialism, not soft paddling of it, actual hard communism. The world has never been more receptive to that message. But of course, democracy and capitalism give people more freedoms. So whatever thoughts that were planted in your mind by Ayn Rand and others, especially if you have money, you want to believe in that kind of thing. But pray stop these conspiracies. If you don't, You will know, you won't even know what hit you. By the way, I told you that I would actually happily take a bullet for President Biden, Kamala Harris, include Governor Walz as well. I would also, and this is the unique thing about me, I would actually take a bullet for Donald Trump and his running mate and their families also. Why? That is not political. I think that in very vulnerable time of my life, Donald Trump's work before he ran for office, like Apprentice and his books, actually helped me a lot. And that goes for his running mate. Of course, he keeps on making a portrait of himself, like childless cat ladies. And while I was defending his book, my own family called me out, and my wife said that you have two daughters. If one of them does not want to marry eventually, will you be okay with the use of that kind of language for your children? And I go, I didn't have a comeback, right? But not for political reasons. Because with Donald Trump and JD, you'll get an army of Stephen Millers, Stephen Bannon, and so many other hate mongers. I mean, I need to remind you what kind of people they are? So, what are the takeaways from today's discussion? If you're South Asian, stick to Kamala Harris. South Asian region, of course, you are American, so you are American. Hindu, Muslim does not count. You or say Sikh, Buddhist, or whatever. Kamala Harris is the best choice. Two, um, Muslims should know that there is no candidate better than Kamala Harris. And by the way, I was about to miss out on that. Jill Stein. I mean, now, people from these movements for Palestine, they seem to pin their hopes after Kennedy actually went to Trump. After that, by the way, Kennedy was also a very open supporter of Netanyahu's policy, not of Israel. I mean, who would root against any government? Nobody could, right? But um, he was also an open and clear supporter of Netanyahu's policies. But that is not all. Jill Stein. I mean, we know from 2016 the kind of role that played in actually bringing down Democratic ticket, and surprise, then she was sitting next to Putin and Flynn. I mean, Putin is Putin. I have different take on his politics, of course. But regardless, whatever it is, my General Flynn, I mean, who was wilder supporter of Donald Trump than him? He and his son are singularly responsible for the creation and perpetuation of this QAnon sect. I'm going to call it a sect or cult because that is what it became eventually, right? With that kind of people, if you are actually sitting with them, sharing your meal and supporting your causes, supporting their causes, you know, you're a false choice. And the whole purpose is to undercut the democratic vote bank. So, even if you actually, and by the way, in what universe do you think that your protest vote in support of Jill Stein and against Kamala Harris is not going to benefit Donald Trump? It is not going to benefit, or put her, Jill Stein, into power. There's no possibility whatsoever. So why waste your vote? If you're somebody who does not want to vote, please think again. Read Project 2025. Go through the stories, horrendous stories that are coming in from various parts of America where women the victims of rape and incest had to take their pregnancy or forced to take their pregnancy term, and many people who actually lost their body parts or their lives because of that kind of compulsion. So it is important, it is very important at this moment in history to have a person like Kamala Harris and Governor Walz, Tim Walz, I was forgetting his name, and I haven't remembered that machine's name, so forgive me for that. But you get it, right? These are very simple choices. And if you fail, there's a chance that you lose or you fail the whole humanity. So, if you're a Donald Trump supporter, I understand you must be coming from somewhere. But just because of prejudices, don't go against a good candidate. Just because of her gender, just because of her identity, her nationality is American, because of her religion. So these are important things. And I thought that it is important to remember there's no conspiracy to undermine or actively dismember India. There's none to actually damage the Israeli state per se. I think that the person who is destroying Israeli state is um, Netanyahu himself, because whenever you have imperial overstretch, you end up compromising the core, and that is not all. You expose the bully that you are to the world, and because of that, people stop actually being your open and absolute supporters. So with that kind of state of affairs, I and I channel what John Oliver was telling New York Times the other day. It is sad, depressing that it still is so close, because I mean Donald Trump might actually promise a lot of things, and I think in many points I see his value and his him being in office, but the kind of baggage he brings is absolutely not acceptable. I thought that I'm going to share my 2 cents. I know it is a long video, but I'm hoping that whosoever reaches this far, whether you're of Indian origin, whether you are of South Asian origin, whether you're Muslim, even if you are, for that matter, even if you are white, and your heart is in the right place, you should actually distribute, make it, make your South Asian friends or some Americans of South Asian origin, and Muslims of Muslim Americans also to watch this. Thank you very much for watching. This was today's video. I just wanted to get it out of my system, and I just wanted to do my contribute my 2 cents. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, kindly do so. Click the like button, and also follow the channel and all the social that I have shared with you. Thank you very much for watching. I'll wait to hear from you as well. Take care. Bye bye.